What is Jenkins? Jenkins is a popular open-source automation tool used for continuous integration and continuous delivery. It helps automate software builds, tests, and deployments, making the development process more efficient. With Jenkins, developers can frequently integrate their code changes and detect errors early. How does Jenkins work? Jenkins runs jobs that perform various automation tasks. These jobs can be triggered by code commits to a repository, scheduled time-based executions, or manual triggers by developers. Jenkins pulls the latest code from version control, builds the application, runs tests, and deploys it if everything is successful. What are the key features of Jenkins? Jenkins offers several powerful features, including continuous integration and deployment automation, extensibility through plugins, support for parallel execution using multiple agents, easy installation and configuration, robust error handling and notifications, integration with version control systems like Git, and detailed logging for debugging. How do you install Jenkins? To install Jenkins, follow these steps. Download the Jenkins WAR file from the official Jenkins website. Ensure Java is installed on your system. Open a terminal and navigate to the downloaded WAR file's location. Run the command java jar jenkins.war. Then, open a browser and access Jenkins at localhost port 8080. What are Jenkins plugins? Jenkins plugins are add-ons that extend Jenkins functionality. There are over 1,800 plugins available for different integrations, including source control management, build tools, test automation, notifications, cloud, and container integration. How do you create a job in Jenkins? To create a new Jenkins job, follow these steps. Log into the Jenkins dashboard. Click New Item and enter a job name. Choose a job type, such as freestyle or pipeline. Configure the job by setting up the repository, build steps, test execution, and notifications. Click Save and then select Build Now to run the job. What is a Jenkins pipeline? A Jenkins pipeline is a scripted workflow that automates the entire C/CD process. It defines the stages for building, testing, and deploying applications using a Jenkinsfile. Pipelines make C/CD more repeatable, version-controlled, and scalable. What are Jenkins agents? Jenkins agents, formerly known as slaves, are worker machines that execute Jenkins jobs. They help in distributing workloads, scaling builds, and isolating environments. Agents communicate with the Jenkins master to receive tasks and report results. How can you secure Jenkins? Security is critical in Jenkins. Follow these best practices. Enable authentication by creating users with roles and permissions. Use HTTPS to encrypt traffic with SSL or TLS. Keep Jenkins updated with the latest security patches. Restrict access and limit admin rights to trusted users. Install security plugins such as role-based access control. And secure the underlying server infrastructure hosting Jenkins. What is a Jenkinsfile and how does it differ from traditional job configurations? A Jenkinsfile is a text file that defines the C/CD pipeline as code. It allows you to structure the process, for example, stages and steps, and store it in version control, providing better traceability. Traditional job configurations are stored within Jenkins, making them harder to version and track changes. 2. What's the difference between scripted and declarative pipelines? Scripted pipelines use groovy scripting for full control over pipeline behavior. They are more flexible but harder to maintain. Declarative pipelines use a structured, simplified syntax with predefined stages, making them easier to maintain and understand. 3. How do you handle pipeline failures and retries in Jenkins? You can use error handling in pipelines to handle failures, such as using catch blocks. You can retry failed stages or mark the build as unstable or failed based on conditions. 4. How can you parameterize Jenkins jobs? You can add parameters like strings, booleans, or file uploads to make the job more flexible. This allows different configurations each time the job runs, increasing its reusability. 5. What are Jenkins distributed builds and how can they be set up? Distributed builds let you run jobs on multiple machines, Jenkins agents, to speed up builds. Set up by configuring agents, physical or virtual machines, and connecting them to the Jenkins master. 6. Best practices for Jenkins pipelines in C/CD workflows. Modularity, keep pipelines reusable with shared libraries. Error handling, include notifications for failed builds. Parallelism, use parallel stages/agents to speed up builds. Version control, store Jenkins files in version control. Code quality, use linters and static analysis for pipeline code. 7. How can you integrate Jenkins with external tools/services? Jenkins integrates with various tools through plugins, such as version control, Git, SVN, build tools, Maven, Gradle, testing frameworks, Junit, Selenium. Artifact repositories, Nexus, Artifactory, deployment tools, Ansible, Kubernetes, and notification services, Slack, email. 8. How do you achieve high availability and scalability in Jenkins? Distributed builds, use multiple Jenkins agents. Load balancing, distribute requests across multiple Jenkins masters. Cloud scalability, scale agents dynamically based on demand. Redundancy, set up Jenkins master-slave configurations. Backups, regularly backup Jenkins data to avoid data loss. What is a Jenkins pipeline shared library, and how do you use it? A Jenkins pipeline shared library lets you write reusable pipeline code that can be shared across multiple Jenkins pipelines. It helps centralize common logic, promotes code reuse, and maintains consistency. To use it, define the shared library in a separate repository, configure Jenkins to load it, and call the library functions in your pipelines. 2. What are Jenkins agents in Kubernetes? Jenkins Kubernetes plugin? The Jenkins Kubernetes plugin enables Jenkins to automatically create and manage agents, build workers, on a Kubernetes cluster. Jenkins agents are created as pods in the Kubernetes cluster and scale up or down based on the demand. This provides better scalability and resource efficiency, especially in cloud-based or containerized environments. 3. How do you implement Jenkins pipeline parallelization, and what are the considerations? Pipeline parallelization allows multiple stages or steps to run at the same time, speeding up the overall build process. Use the parallel step in Jenkins to define stages or branches that run concurrently. Key considerations include synchronizing parallel branches, managing resource use, handling dependencies, and monitoring the execution. 4. What are Jenkins pipeline stages, and how can you control their execution? Stages represent distinct phases of the pipeline, like build, test, or deploy. You define them using the stage directive in the Jenkinsfile, and they provide a clear flow of the pipeline. You can control execution with conditions, like the when directive, or input parameters to skip or execute stages based on specific criteria. 5. How do you implement Jenkins pipeline testing and quality gates? Pipeline testing includes running unit tests, integration tests, and acceptance tests as part of the C/CD process. Integrate testing tools into the pipeline and define stages for testing. Quality gates set criteria, like code coverage or test results, that must be met before the pipeline proceeds. If the criteria aren't met, the pipeline fails or is marked as unstable. 6. What is Blue Ocean in Jenkins, and how does it enhance the user interface? Blue Ocean is a modern Jenkins plugin that provides a more user-friendly and graphical interface for managing Jenkins pipelines. It simplifies navigation and offers better visualization of pipeline status and logs. With Blue Ocean, you can create and manage pipelines visually, making it easier to understand pipeline flow and progress. 7. How can you secure sensitive information, such as credentials, in Jenkins pipelines? Use Jenkins Credentials plugin to securely manage sensitive data like usernames, passwords, and API keys. Store credentials in Jenkins Secure Credentials Store and access them in your pipeline using special bindings. Avoid hard-coding sensitive info in your pipeline script and ensure that proper access controls are in place to protect credentials. 8. What is Jenkins Pipeline as Code, and what are its benefits? Jenkins Pipeline as Code means defining and managing your pipeline configuration in a text file, usually a Jenkins file. Benefits include version control for pipeline changes, better collaboration and code reviews, full automation of C/CD processes, easier maintenance, reusability, and troubleshooting. And enabling applying software development best practices to pipeline code.